Our episode commences with Thomas obtaining startling tidings. Fort Furu has been conquered, and inside was Selena. The narrative transitions to Ars and his cohort as they infiltrate the stronghold, where their leader commends them for their extraordinary endeavor. Owing to their efforts, they succeeded in seizing all the fortifications. The maiden in question is Selena Vandal, the offspring of Chief Schmackfrater and the commandant of the fortress. Ars then inquires of Lord Charon what he proposes to do with them. Lord Charon hesitates momentarily before proclaiming his ultimate verdict to execute them all. Ars is astounded by this, but Lord Charon clarifies that retaining them as captives until the conflict concludes will deplete too many of their provisions and impede their progression. They might also double-cross them at any instant. At that juncture, Commander Selena interjects, stating she doesn't object and that they should proceed and slay them instantly. Rs is also taken aback by her utterance as she continues elucidating that they must accept accountability for safeguarding the fortress. She declares she's willing to perish as a combatant, and everyone present is braced to slay or be slain. They are embroiled in a genuine war where everyone forfeits their life to shield their nation. Lord Charon then directs his men to escort them outside to conduct the execution, but Ars intervenes, declaring, "My lord," they yielded, "executing them is excessively severe." The commander retorts, "I comprehend your sentiments, Ars, but there is substantial peril in sparing them." Ars then states, "Slaying them is the genuine jeopardy. What is the objective of this conflict?" Lord Charon, "Didn't you inform me that the goal of this war is to unify Messiah? These individuals may be our adversaries, but they are also Messiah, just like us. If we eliminate them, it will kindle a resentment we will never be able to quell, and we won't be able to unify the land even if we triumph. Power is not everything. True potency in this situation lies in releasing them and demonstrating compassion when we possess the authority to do so." Russell then speaks, requesting everyone's viewpoint on the issue as Ars proposes evaluating Smock's troops, accepting those who swear allegiance, and disarming the remainder, returning them to Fort Smock in a captive exchange. This way, both factions profit and no one perishes. Ars conveys his elation, exclaiming, "What a magnificent notion!" And Lord Charon is also content, deeming it a superb resolution. Ars then transmits a message to Selena, urging her not to pursue death incessantly or capitulate even if a blade is at her throat. As long as her people survive, the blood must course through her veins, and she must not relinquish her responsibility as their chief. She has an obligation to return her soldiers to the fortress, and a lord's duty does not terminate just because they have endured a defeat. Rebuilding her territories is also a component of a leader's responsibility. Though we may be foes now, I trust that one day when this conflict ceases, we can construct a virtuous nation together. Commander Selena is jubilant that he will liberate her soldier, but she sits resolutely and states, "Even so, perishing with dignity is preferable to a life of disgrace. My position as a leader remains unaltered." At that instant, Charlotte appears and says to her, "I applaud you on that robust, formidable stronghold. It required all my might as it was exceptionally demanding." Selena recognizes that Charlotte was the one who launched those fire orbs at the fortress, though Charlotte utilized the fortress's ramparts and fortifications to safeguard everyone, guaranteeing no one was injured. Lord Charon then addresses Selena, stating, "Lady Selena, return to the stronghold and inquire of your father if he will remain with Vastmarch or align with us. I desire his response before daybreak. This is your ultimate opportunity." Later that evening, Ars converses with Ritz, who's laboring late and feels depleted from appraising all the new recruits, though they will considerably bolster their forces. Then Ars enters and encounters Pham, the intelligence agent, who states, "Greetings, Ars. I possess stimulating news for you." He divulges two pieces of information. Firstly, that their subsequent objective is Fort Smock, where the adversary feels self-assured in their defenses unless you contrive to penetrate what they term the impregnable barrier. Entry will be exceedingly arduous. Aris deduces from this that the adversary may be more disposed to combat rather than surrender, which appears probable. Tham then proceeds, disclosing that Thomas is aiding the leader of SMAK in directing their troops. They are aware Thomas is Marley's younger sibling, and Tham isn't surprised by his involvement, as Thomas invariably conceives tactics like this. Tham forewarns them that their adversary encompasses some remarkably astute person who won't permit them to advance effortlessly. Iris then proceeds to inform Lord Charon of this crucial intelligence. The narrative then shifts to Commander Selena at Fort Smock, where she apologizes to Commander Thomas for failing to shield the fortress and states she'll accept any penalty. Overwhelmed with joy, he hastens to her, tears of happiness in his eyes, glad she returned unharmed. He was profoundly apprehensive upon hearing of the fortress's downfall, but she exclaims, "Father, please rebuke me. I committed an error and desire to confront the repercussions of my lapse." The following morning, Aris and his troops assemble outside the stronghold, realizing the foe has no intention of yielding and is poised for battle. Lord Charon's and Aris's legions are also prepared. Lord Charon instructs the army to assault, even though no one has ever breached the impregnable gate previously. It is remarkably resilient, with a channel flanking either side of the overpass. There is no means of evasion, and the onslaught feels like proceeding directly into one's doom. There was no avenue of escape, and the assault felt like advancing directly toward their demise. The commander instructed his troops to commence firing, but Aris's army held their position and persisted with the confrontation. The scene then transitions to Frater, where his men inform him that the impenetrable gate has been penetrated. Inside the stronghold, Tham is depicted eliminating numerous soldiers. One of the soldiers in his final moments asks who she is, activating her recollection of a past dialogue with Aris and his companions. They had been discussing forcibly penetrating Fort Smock's gate. Russell had voiced apprehension, noting how challenging it would be to unlock the gate. Tham volunteered to proceed and unlock the gate from within, though he cautioned that the adversary was on high alert and infiltrating wouldn't be simple. Russell responded that it was the opportune moment to act, as they could infiltrate during the captive exchange, making entry simpler given their numbers. Returning to the present, a sentinel hastens to Selena, informing her that the gate has been breached and the adversary has entered the fortress, though they haven't yet succumbed. Selena instructs him to assemble all their forces and fight, but he replies that Lord Fredo, the portal, has instructed them to yield. Infuriated, Selena summoned a recollection from her youth. Her father had once called upon her in her chamber. After concluding a military expedition, she had inquired enthusiastically about his engagements, and he settled beside her, narrating his extraordinary feats. Lord Frater was formerly a daunting person who accumulated riches from his conflicts. As a youngster, nothing pleased her more than listening to his perilous chronicles of daring. He even bestowed upon her a locket, an emblem of valor, informing her that bravery was the paramount virtue in combat. But as the strife over Meshen's reign escalated, her father commenced to transform. When he discovered that war was unavoidable, he abruptly seemed enfeebled. Juvenile Selena experienced a sense of treachery, as her once potent and self-sufficient father no longer appeared trustworthy. Back in the current time, Selena bursts into her father's apartment, brimming with wrath. He directs her to gather some troops and escape, as the stronghold is no longer secure. Enraged, Selena declines, inquiring if he genuinely plans to capitulate without a struggle. Such conduct, she contends, is unbecoming of a nobleman like him. She proclaims that she will not emulate him. She will remain and contend, prepared to perish in this location if required. At this juncture, Lord Thomas entered the chamber, having overheard Selena speaking about battling. He commended her for her steadfast determination and informed her that she had performed an exceptional task safeguarding Fort Furu, procuring them invaluable time. Nevertheless, he declared that the destiny of this fortress was now determined. Lord Fredo expressed regret for not fulfilling his anticipations, but Thomas consoled him, stating he possessed a scheme even in the face of adversity. Brandishing a mystical explosive detonator, he disclosed that he had positioned explosive spells throughout the fortress, all linked to this mechanism in his hand. His strategy was for them to simulate surrender and entice Lord Charon inward, before activating the detonation to eliminate him, along with the fortress. Lord Fredo concurred and directed the soldiers to commence the evacuation forthwith. But Thomas halted him, asserting that everyone would remain and detonate collectively. Astonished, everyone gazed at him in incredulity. Thomas clarified that if the adversary discovered the fortress deserted, they would surmise something and decline to enter something. And although he could initiate the detonator from outside, he desired it to occur in Lord Charon's vicinity, as it would render their final resistance more impactful, a concluding burst of glory for their lineage. Selena objected, stating she would be content to expire in an honorable clash. But this scheme was nothing but spinelessness and perfidy. Thomas disregarded her anxiety, instructing her to cease this foolishness. They had forfeited the fortress, and were vanquished here as well. Thus, failures had no authority to preach to others about warfare. He addressed Lord Fredo, reminding him that Lord Va's march never conceded defeat, and if Fredo's modest, rustic territory vanquished the enemy's commander, the name of Smock would be eternalized. It would be a tremendous distinction, a final opportunity to expire with dignity as combatant, instead of enduring a life of humiliation. Selena spurned the notion, but then she recollected Iris's pronouncements about Mysian and its prospects. Recognizing the necessity to cautiously contemplate her people's future, he had implored her to accept her obligations as the sovereign of her populace. Ultimately, she consented to Thomas's strategy, acknowledging that as the offspring of a nobleman, it was her responsibility. Thomas conveyed to her that Lord Vasmarch would be exceptionally gratified by her for this judgment. Lord Thomas observed Selena and uttered, "How virtuous of you! Lord Vasmarch would be very content," she responded. "But if we don't shield them, what's the purpose of our existence?" Then she hurled her locket to the ground. Vandal advanced, pulverized it underfoot, and declared, "I comprehend that I can no longer attend to you, Lord Thomas. I adhere to your directives throughout, for the benefit of these territories. I care nothing for prestige or appeasing Lord Vasmarch, but I will not permit my subjects to be injured." Thomas retorted that he loathed the frail, and that Vandal would lament betraying Lord Vasmarch, and then he departed. One of the troopers attempted to assail Vandal, but he parried the assault, glanced at his daughter, and stated, "I haven't deteriorated so much that I necessitate your defense, my cherished daughter." The setting then transitioned to Lord Charon, who was apprised by Vandal that the Smock domain was yielding without further opposition. Vandal solicited clemency for his troops, and requested Charon to proceed, as he wished with him solely, as his men were simply adhering to instruction. Lord Charon expressed gratitude, stating he would pardon him and instead incorporate him and his soldiers into his legion. Selena subsequently contacted Eris, informing him that although they had been defeated, this wasn't the termination. "I will enhance this territory. That is my obligation." The scene shifted to Lord Thomas outside, surveying the citadel from afar. "What a collection of simpletons," he mumbled, raising another locket. "I never divulged to anyone that I possessed only one detonator." Abruptly, a colossal explosion jolted the citadel, alarming everyone. Russell gazed at Fama and inquired, "Did it succeed, Fama?" Iris perplexedly questioned Russell, who elucidated that he had instructed Fama to relocate all the explosives from within the citadel to the exterior. Comprehending that this was undoubtedly a component of Thomas's scheme, Lord Charon turned to Vandal, who revealed that he had demolished the detonator when he was with Thomas Fama. Then he remarked that Thomas likely possessed a reserve detonator, and Russell clarified that they had uncovered the explosives when they orchestrated the acquisition of Fort Furu, aware that Thomas would resort to any measure to guarantee triumph. They had speculated he would rig the citadel to annihilate everyone. Russell apologized to Iris for not disclosing this